Welcome back to this anti-mine Zerg vs Terran regular Tuesday daily. Daily 581 where we're actually learning to be a better gamer. We're only 11 minutes into the first game because there's a significant amount to talk about, primarily on the emotionally reassuring scale. The important timings, 6, which in my eyes are 6 minutes, 7:30, 6 minutes when we start to really have to start getting the rest of our tech into gear, like the expand gas. The engineering bay timings and the attack timings at 7:30, 11 minutes when his stuff is really kicking into gear, and most importantly 13:30 is when the big 2-2 pushes can come. There's certainly other attack timings that can happen before then, but that's fine, because this is a way to exploit someone who's going for 13:30 pushes. This creep is a way to exploit the 13:30 pushes. This Zergling Baneling is a way to exploit any earlier pushes. The Spire that's coming out somewhat late is still going to be there in time for 13:30 pushes or to deal with pre-13:30 drops. These are defensive Mutalisks. We're seeing how there's a lot of tools that we have. This macro hatch also, as the earlier this can go up, the better, because Zerglings are our tool. Holy crap, I can't emphasize that enough. So watch this comically low number of Mutalisks that end up popping out. Very, very low. Totally correct. Don't need it that much. And we're seeing that as the... if we're Zerg, we're starting to see, gosh, there's not been enough creep spread this way. Which either could have been a result of us not spreading down and up like this, or could have been this getting shut down and we needed to spread right more. I would say that this was the big issue, is that this creep here needed to be spread to the right more, and then on down. So here's the real vulnerable spot. Oh, our Terran player was a little bit behind on his 2-2 upgrades, so we're already exploiting this. It will not be done in time for 13:30, maybe 14, it looks like, 1,420 seconds. So yeah, it should be done in about 14 minutes. So here's another thing that's kind of cool. Everything's sort of building up, this tension's building up to around the 13:30 mark. But 11 minutes is right when things could start being variety. I like to divide attacks into pushes and cutesy shit. And I know, push is like a really nice, clean term that a lot of people, I get. Cutesy shit is not very useful, so I'm gonna have to explain. A push is just an attack that tries to go at your front. All your tools are there: Marines, Marauders, Medivacs, Mines, and upgrades. We're just attacking the front. Protoss Deathball, another example of a push. Broodlord Infestor, another example of a push. Cutesy shit is where it's designed to do some damage, but not really to win the game. So like a drop, some Hellion Harass, Medivac dropping some mines, some cutesy shit, right? Sometimes some early timing pushes that hopes that you don't have the right thing. I would actually define this as a cutesy push, because we don't actually have 2-2. We've invested heavily in getting 2-2 upgrades early, and we just don't have them. And this is not even a particularly scary push. It's 23 Marines. But you're seeing the Spore Crawlers get in place a little bit beforehand. And this hatch has a really interesting statement around it. This hatch is another way of saying, aha, I am Zerg, and I know that your pushes are going to be around 13 minutes. Your cutesy shit can begin around 11.5 minutes or so. So this expansion I'm going to plant down knowing that all I got to do is defend one big attack, and then I have a fully operational running base to roll with. Very typically, it's correct to expand just before notable attack timings. So, if you're a Zerg player and you know that this Protoss player is going to be pushing around 14 minutes, we're not going to expand at like 12. So that way, as you get the defense for the push setup afterwards, you're in good shape. So we can see why we're favoring Baneling speed over Mutalisks early on. We can also see that this is an extremely dangerous push angle for the Terran, but this one is really not. Most Biomine players are looking for juicy spots to do some pushing yet. And the south side seems good. We're about to see Yu-Gi-Oh! Make himself a mistake. Yu-Gi-Oh! Was gonna make himself an error, and he's gonna start to cry and wanna die. Why do I call this cutesy? This is just like a creep killing push. This is not really an attack. Or a creep killing attack, not really a push. So here is where I have issues. We can see clearly, even with all the mines, and Yu-Gi-Oh! Just running in there straight like a crazy mutant, just total rage mode attack. A lot of the Biomine, or a lot of the Banelings are still going to connect. So this is, again, one of the reasons why Ling Baneling is so effective against this. There's just not really good answer on the ground, other than the Marines, which are going to get hugged by all the Zerglings. But more importantly, Yu-Gi-Oh! Is walking off creep, so it's going to be a little bit difficult. So like Yu-Gi-Oh! Just eats a ton of mine shots. If the Banelings were on creep, they would have been able to roll a little bit faster and kill this off. A little teensy-tiny bit faster. But even that said, it's still fine, because Yu-Gi-Oh! Is going to be able to macro up a whole bunch of Zerglings. He's actually a little bit behind on his larva injecting. But once he steps onto the creep, he is not in very good shape. So hey, there's that 1330 mark. We got ourselves an expansion set up. Yeah, you see, look, now we're going to make 7 drones and just rally them up and get our gas geysers going. We are eating some pretty huge shots here, but once again, Ling Baneling off creep is kind of struggling, but yet is still yielding really good results. And the reason that Yu-Gi-Oh! Is able to do this so comfortably, even though creep would have meant that he would win the battle quite badly, is he has these backup defenses. There was a medevac here that got killed off by the Spore Crawler, because these are nicely planted. All the hugs. So these supply discrepancies can oftentimes make you think that, oh, maybe Zerg's behind right now. Well, no, not really. 4th base being set up just before that critical attack timing, making drones for it. And the last component that I wanted to note is the very swift tech to hive. Generally, Zerg players were being a little bit leery of getting a hive too quickly against Terran. So they would stay in the mid-game because, hey, we need to get some Lings and Infestors to hold off those pushes, but now we don't even really need to worry too much about using that much gas to stay alive in the mid-game, because we're mainly using minerals to stay alive in the mid-game with Banelings and Zerglings. So I'm going to just watch a slight bit more. Here's that about 14-minute, or if you're Flash, 1330 push that's ever so threatening. We still only have 4 Mutalisks. They've only really been in place to try to kill off these medevacs. Zerg can actually pull down and away. I like that Yu-Gi-Oh's not quite engaging until he can get himself into a comfortable position on creep, where it's virtually impossible to control correctly. And poaching a little bit off creep is pretty much inevitable. Yu-Gi-Oh was falling behind like 40 supply, but just Ling Baneling consistently with a couple of slight whiffs, and now he's in excellent condition. So I want you just to sort of see this look, that now that we've passed that kind of 12 to 16 minute mark, we did it. We got out to the other side, and it's just going to be generally good, well thought out gameplay that helps us stabilize. We have our extra geysers. This is nifty. Great. Cool. Fantastic. I would talk more about this, but I want to go check out another game. So I'm going to close this and hope it doesn't crash. Okay, it didn't crash. That's very, very, very good. So in that game, we got the chance to see a pretty not so scary, a pretty scary opening. Reapers into Hellions, keeping us locked in, denying our creep spread. Ugh. And yet we still got into this position that's quite nice. And even after some scary mid-game attacks, we can see that the ones where Yu-Gi-Oh! Engaged off creep didn't go so well. The ones that began on creep went so well, so well. And this means that Yu-Gi-Oh! Can look at the position and has the freedom to do what he did in that game. Make 14 Mutalisks now that the pushes are forced back. Mutalisks become increasingly important defensively as we get more bases, because we're just spread out. So what I want to do is I want to ask a very simple question. What if we are up against a very passive player who goes more economically focused? Well, let's look at that. This is Yu-Gi-Oh! Versus Pult. We're going to go through this real swift. Hitting the plus button. So let's talk about all our various timings. 6 minutes is the big time when we're thinking, man, I got to make sure all the rest of my stuff is out. That's when some of my real scary attack timings, or that's when generally Hellions will pop out to reinforce those brutal Reaper harasses. But oh, look at this Pult. How lovely. He went for Command Center first. Oh, wow, he actually isn't even getting Reapers. Oh. Well, we're still seeing Yu-Gi-Oh! Get gas. He's not getting hyper early gas. He's just getting a very typically reasonably timed gas. And as we see, he just sort of notes, oh. In fact, he hasn't even seen that there's an expansion. He's just knows, wow, I have seen no Reaper. There has been not a Reaper in sight. So there's Queen number 3, and bum-ba-da. Look at this. I want you to know, the information that Zerg has is not a Reaper. That's literally all the information that Zerg has. He doesn't have, I've seen the expand, I've scouted it, I sacrificed a drone. He just sees, oh, no Reaper? No problem. Takes the expand. Can do this very comfortably. Largely because he has already researched Zergling speed. This Queen is going to permit us to do a little creep spreadagio. Right up there at the front lines. Not a single concern in sight. No bothers given. Because, oh, thank me goodness, there's no Reapers killing it off. Wow, 6 minutes. Seems like a good time to begin building the extractor and begin putting dudes back into gas. Look, we've just gotten gas. There's 8 gas has been mined. So around 6 minutes is when we wanted to round off that tech. What do you know? Around 6 minutes is also when an early expanding player's Hellions pop out. What do you know? It's almost as though these timings are useful. Oh, yes, 6 minutes. Okay, cool. 7:30, still a notable time because this is when his double engineering base should start upgrading and is also when the threat of Hellions should come up. 6 minutes, 7:30. Still getting, excuse me, the Queen. Little Queenies coming up. Cool. Continuing to do some cool creep spreadage. I don't care if you do the cool, know exactly when to build the Queen so that way it pops out right when the larva inject pukes out. Any of that stuff, I don't really care. Whatever you want to do, hell, you can just go like 3 Queen and no more for the rest of the game. But still, we see the 6:30, or the 6-minute timing was important, and because the 7-minute and 30-second timing is important, we are getting double evolution chamber to start our upgrades slightly before 7:30. We are getting a round of Zerglings slightly before 7 minutes, because that is when some cutesy attacks can come. Look at all the Zerglings, look at all the bothers that are not given in the circumstance. Haha, excellent, c'est très excellent. Now, interestingly, what we are seeing out of Pult is no engineering base. He's actually going for a very aggressive variant. Or I should say, a not early game aggressive variant, but a very mid-game aggressive variant, opting for more mines and a Viking. For the poking and prodding, no problem. No problem. We already have a read. This look screams Biomine. A factory with a reactor. A tech lab could be lit up, would help us a lot, but especially the starport. Looks very Biomine-y. There is a small chance it could be mech, but, I mean, if you're really scared, just head back in there again and see. So, here are, so this is, yeah, what Yu-Gi-Oh! Sees. So he knows barracks are coming up. So, right around the 11-minute mark is when a lot of the cutesy stuff can begin happening, such as medevac drops with stuff going on in there. We have our Zerglings trying to step up, trying to absorb some of those mine shots so the rest of these Zerglings can surround and go. Like right... not quite Startail Life mode, but still reasonably strong enough. In the midst of all of this, it might seem like Yu-Gi-Oh! Is falling behind, but he would only be in a jiffy if his opponent were going for Tank Marine and had already gone well down that tech path. Instead, look at this. Just 2 geysers. Just 2, that's it. Just 2, and in fact a macro hatch is about to pop up. Yu-Gi-Oh's even getting distracted. Spore Crawlers went up. Why? Because we saw the damn starport. Look at this nice Spore Crawler placement. Spire going up, Spore Crawler, Infestation Pit. Because starting to realize, wow, I mean, if you went for a starport first instead of adding on these other barracks, then I can definitely quickly tech up to a hive, no problem. All these 4 guys are popping down at the same time. 2-2 upgrade's going to come up. The very late macro hatch. This could have been started around 8:45, but no big deal. Creep spread in the main base. Very important on Akalon Waste so we can get these Spore Crawlers up all along here. Yeah. Yeah, nice. This small pack of Lings that was doing all that was doing all the protectioning early on is now going to do some scout checking. We've been going crazy on drones. We started our 2-2 upgrades right away, so that way we can deal with any 13:30 or 14-minute timing push. We're getting our hive right away. We're feeling quite good about that, to be quite honest. And when did we say that the cutesy pushes could really begin? Cutesy, like all the varieties of cutesiness. Marines, Hellions, Medevacs, all that stuff. Right around 11 minutes. Right around 11 minutes. So, of course, it makes perfect sense to get a couple of Mutas and Lings right around 11 minutes. Oh my gosh, this matchup looks so easy. And when was that ever so critical attack timing? Gee, 13:30 or 14 minutes around-ish. So let's start an expansion just before then, because we have another few minutes until he can attack, and our defense that we see being set up right now is not just a holy shit, I don't want to die right now defense. It's a holy shit, I don't want to die right now defense that also means I get to keep an expansion. Ah. Baneling Nest coming down. It seems much later than last game, and that is true. However, this game we got Spore Crawlers first, and then the Baneling Nest, because we just saw the early starport. And this game, in the previous game, we saw the barracks, so we get the Baneling Nest first. I just want to briefly note 11 minutes was another important timing because this is right about when these add-ons are finishing up. I'll actually even pull back to like, I'll pull back to 10, yeah. So just so we can see that these add-ons only just recently finished. Doo-doo-doo-doo. All the timings I'm saying are not a lie. Boink, literally like right on point. 11 minutes is when that stuff pops out. So let me zoom back ahead. Stoink. And here we are. Some cutesy harass. There's like some cutesy mines around here. Nothing we can't handle. But thanks to this very fast hive tech, now we have whatever follow-up we want. We can go for an Ultralisk Cavern. We can go for... not Concussive Shell, what's it called? Corruptors into Broodlords. I prefer the Corruptor Broodlord route, personally, and just flooding crazy numbers of Lings. But this is an example of how we didn't have any sort of scary pushiness that happened in the start of the game. And by the way, look at that timing. Just before 13:30, so good. We didn't have to deal with any of that, so the big adjustment that we made was being able to get this hive up earlier. And Pult actually is going to play quite passively. So what have we seen? We've seen some openings, some decisions that happen in the early stage that gets us to a really comfortable position as Zerg. Oh, how comfortable we are with 4 bases, Hive Tech, 3-3 started. Actually, I'll even show 3-3 started, Hive Tech, 4th base. Whatever you do, please do not forget Adrenal Gland. That's one of the most important upgrades against Biomine because the Lings are so good. This is where I'm going to do something weird. I'm going to show Yu-Gi-Oh! Doing a completely different opening that still flows back into this. Please don't crash. Please don't crash. Test, test. I hope there's no crackle in the mic. We're going to look at a completely different opening in this circumstance. Let's see here. I think this was it. Excellent. So, let's say you don't want to do the exact thing. Let's say you don't want to go for that early expand. You have some different styles that you want to do. Still, same logic is going to be applying here. We're going to look through this opening, and then in part 3 is where we'll do some of the mid-game looks. So here we see an early expand and a spawning pool. We see a Terran player getting Reapers up. Nothing looks amiss up in the Zerg bases. Even the Reaper who shows up, being a jerk. He gets repelled. And let's see what Yu-Gi-Oh! Does, shall we? Shall we? 2 Reapers out. Ah, Rocha Warina. A little bit of creep spread incoming from Yu-Gi-Oh! Has some pretty nice timings down for that. Back home, we see the exact same sort of setup as before. A couple missings on the supply depot, just a little bit behind, but still. 6 minutes is about when they pop out. Oh! And then, so this is why this 8 Roach push is very, very strong. The Roachies will arrive, repel the Reapers. There's not really a lot of counterattack threats that can happen in the main base. But let's take a look. Even with this Reaper opening, things go right on back to normal. Speed. Pulling dudes out of gas. Yeah. There were some of those cutesy 7-minute attack timings, 7:30 attack timings, that we're just not that worried about. This play is really good by this Terran to check the 3rd. I really, really like that. Doo-doo, doo-doo. We're being annoying. Doo-doo. We're being an asshole. I love this wonderful play. It makes the Terrans cry. So, alright, cool. The hatch going down. We're seeing out of Terran about a minute delay of the engineering base. Now, if you are left alone, you will see, wow, I don't really know what, timings a lot of this stuff is. Just follow along in approximately the same vein. Evolution Chambers out to be able to match the Terran upgrades. We're a little bit behind, but that's okay because we're still maybe just 15 to 30 seconds behind in this spot. But you can kind of see now why, like, if I'm Zerg and I build these, I'm not just going to be like, alright, cool, I'll get upgrades when I can afford them. I'm going to be, like, spamming like crazy, like, go, 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 go. We've seen the mines, we've seen bio. So here's the 1-1 upgrades. We're starting to spread the creep very aggressively because we know how important that is. We know that these roaches can freely move out into the middle of the map because there's no banshees. And there's not even really going to be that many tanks, and it's really highly unlikely that he even has any starport units out. And in fact, I bet he probably can't even really have his marine macro going until 11 minutes. Oh, thank God I know timings. 4 marines out. 11 minutes is about as early as he can begin cranking out those marines. So these early roaches did not just apply direct pressure. It's helping us with our creep spread, which is so damn important against Biomine. Baneling Nest first. Some Hellions arrive. I mean, it's not great, but we don't really care because he lost the 2 Hellions and only did minimal damage. Oh, look, what do you know? An extra expansion. One of the reasons this is safe is because of the creep spread. Creeper spread. And yeah, the usual thing. We want to straight tech up to Hive. We want to get a Spire for defensive type units. Not even getting roach speed. This is just our initial pack of roaches. More than happy to try to keep those roaches alive. And we're actually starting to see everything pull back into about the same opening. We know he can't really have 2-2 until he's at 13.5 or so minutes. But that's fine. We know that he can do these cutesy style pushes designed to kill off creep that we are happy to invite in order to perform counterattacks. On a map like this, where it's very possible to do very effective counterattacks, I do like doing these sorts of swing arounds with Zerglings and whatnot. On other maps, like Whirlwind, where it's pretty easy to just wall off and turtle up, I think much smaller pushes are essential. We're happy to take this, because we got ourselves our creep spread. Creep spread. 2-2 upgrades incoming. This is one of the edges we have, because even some of the better Terran players will still slip on these upgrades if you're putting this kind of counter pressure on them. But we're still seeing the same basic setup. We've thwarted the 13/14 minute push via counterattacks and good defense of this first attack. So this fourth expansion stays alive. We have something that we got to defend. So when we come back, remember that game that we started off with? The one on Whirlwind? We're going to go back and watch that. And we're going to step into the mid and late game and look at a whole bunch of stuff that can go well and a whole bunch of stuff that can go really bad. Very badly. So let's take a break. Yeah.